Hello, and welcome to another video. So in today's video, we're going to go a bit more in detail about some daycare policies and procedures that licensing is going to require you to have. Okay, so we're going to get into like the requirements, and I'm talking like inspection requirements. If you don't have these things, you will be issued a citation. When they issue a citation, when they come out to inspect, you have to correct it. You have to submit the correction to them, or sometimes it'll be like let's say you had some kind of like spray bottle out when they came. It'll be something that they check for the next time that they come back, okay? So this is new. I recently had an inspection. You guys know I have run a daycare before. If you're watching some of the other videos, you know this information. If not, I have run a daycare before. However, this is after the pandemic. Things have changed. Some things have changed for the better. But I'm gonna let you know some of the things is like current. Like I got an inspection on Wednesday. So this is pretty new information, okay? So first I want to start off with a question that one of you asked. A few questions that one of you asked, and they want to go into some of the information here, okay? So the first question she said is, you mentioned you took a copy of parents' IDs. What reason did you tell parents that you needed this for? You guys know, or maybe you don't know, it's just a part of what I chose to do. The state doesn't require you to take the person's license. They just require them to fill out the information. However, I learned very early on that you need to run your in-home daycare as if it is a business, because it is a business. It's your business. So would you invite someone into your home that you didn't have some of their personal information? I would not. I used to take their identification once they came in. Like I would make a copy of it, I would give it back to them. If there were two parents there, I would make copies of both their IDs. My new thing is going to be to get them to send it before we even schedule an appointment, okay? It's just going to allow you to weed through some of the bull crap that does come with inviting people into your home. So no, the state didn't require me to do it. It's something that I implemented because it was one of my business strategies, really, okay? How did you get to go on field trips with all the kids in care? Do you rent or have a large vehicle? Did you tell your parents to come along? I didn't go on trips that will require anyone outside of myself. Now, if you have like your spouse or maybe you hired another person, which you can do that, as long as they went through the background process and all that, and they're open for helping you, that's cool. But I didn't structure any parts of our day leaning on the help of anyone else, if that makes any sense. So if you think they're taking, like let's say you have 5 kids in your care during the daytime, which that's about right, you can have up to 6 if you're registered. Let's say you have 5 kids in your care. If you think that taking 5 kids to Chuck E. Cheese is going to overwhelm you, just don't take them. How did I get to go on the trips? At the time, we had our 2 cars, and then we also had like a larger SUV. So if you have 5 kids, you can, and there's 5 seats inside this SUV, you can bring the children. You cannot, however, have 5 children and stack all 5 children inside of your car. I mean, you could, but it's illegal, and you definitely can get a citation for that. They could possibly like close you down. So I wouldn't do that. It's actually against the law. I wouldn't do that. If you don't have a vehicle that can't like carry them all, if you want to rent a vehicle, like let's say you did, you talk to one of the parents, you get along with one of the parents, and you say, hey, do you mind coming with me to, let's say it's like a splash town or something like that. Okay, well you guys get all in, you rent a vehicle for that event, and then you go to splash town. You can do whatever you want to do. The state only requires that you keep paperwork. So every time you leave, you need to have a roster of all the children, all their ages, all their allergies, all the information about the child really needs to be kept with you at all times. Hold on. Sorry about that. So when you go on a field trip, I would suggest that you buy something like this, a clipboard, and you need to keep all the information about the child here, okay? Including like just everything. Who can come and get them, their meal plans. Keep all your stuff with you at all times because you really just never know. Okay, I hope that answers your question. You can rent a vehicle if it's too much of a hassle, if it doesn't make sense. Like if you're going to spend money to rent a vehicle, let's say once a week, and it's going to be taking away from the funds that you're actually getting into the daycare, I would reconsider it. Okay, I would definitely reconsider. So just keep that in mind. Invest that money into like some equipment for the kids to play with. we went on field trips every now and then, okay? When we didn't go on field trips, I bought a lot of things for the children. I bought like an indoor little activity tunnel that they could crawl through. I bought a bounce house that I was able to put indoor, and we had like fun Fridays. So there are many different things that you can do. I live in Texas, and the person who asked this question, I believe that she lives in Texas as well. It's really hot here. Like the heat index yesterday, I believe it was 108 degrees. A lot of the time, especially during the summer, we can't go outside anyway. And it's hot like this when it's not even the summertime. No, it's not as hot, but it's always hot here. Like they can't go outside for long periods of time. So I would definitely find things that are really fun for them to do indoors. There's the little scooters where you can scoot across the floor, the little flat ones, the little bouncing balls. It really is dependent upon the age group. And while I'm talking about that, let me put this in here. If you're carrying infants, field trips, like you're gonna have to, of course, have someone else to stay back with the infants, just so all things considered, just take all things into consideration. It's not a mandatory thing, okay? So let's move on to her next question. Did you take off holidays or other days for yourself for planning doctor's appointments and etc.? Now, no, I didn't. I think out of the 3 years that I did it, I took one vacation, and when I came back from the vacation, I closed down the daycare because I realized I had been strapped in the house for so long. I would not suggest that you do this. I would suggest that you make your hours like to where your life fits into it. If you have a spouse, if you have someone else that can like trade off care with you, because I did hire a person at one point in time, but if you don't trust the person, it's just like more money leaving out, just more problems. Make sure your hours make it worth your while, okay? Make sure your hours don't deplete you. Make sure at the end of the day, you still have time to walk outside and get some sunlight and fresh air for yourself. Those are things that you really, really have to consider in this business because nobody else is going to consider them for you. When I first started and I was keeping kids overnight, keeping kids on the weekend, you know, on my off days, on my husband's off days, he was watching kids for me. Like, it was too much. No one cares until you care about you. So keep that in mind. Holidays, I took off holidays when I first started, but also I did events for holidays. So let's say it was New Year's. Yes, it was New Year's. I closed on New Year's, but I had a New Year's parents' night out sleepover where the parents could pay to let their kids stay with me and have like other curricular activities. It was really fun. However, I still had to, like, after New Year's was over the next day, the daycare still open, and I didn't get any sleep that night. I had a newborn. I didn't get any sleep. I was running myself wild. I would close. I would do what's best for me. And sometimes what's best for you is closing. So what I did was holidays. I know a lot of people go off of the school schedule in the area that you're in. So whenever the school that's closest to you, the school district closed, a lot of times daycare is closed as well. And I would strongly suggest doing that. I would not say that I'll go ahead and like close for like a whole 2 weeks in December because most of the time parents still have to work. So if you want to do that, it's all up to you. All those things are up to you. All you have to do is document it and let the parents know. That's the only thing that the state requires. So here's the last question. I have my policy handbook. Do you have one that I can compare mine to? I would love to see if I'm missing anything. So because she asked that question, I was actually going to do this video a little later. I'm going to go ahead and do it now. So we're going to go ahead and get into some of the things that they're going to require you to have, and I'm going to point you in different directions as far as the hand booklet is concerned. I did have my hand booklet available for you guys to see online, and it's still available online. However, I'm not going to link it down below. I want you guys to like do your own research, and I'm going to give you quite a bit of information. So if you would just match your information, trust me, you'll be okay. Okay, so let's get started. So even if you don't have a lot of space, you can do something like this. This is going to be the parent board. All it is just the side right here. I'm going to cover that up. It's the side of a bookshelf, okay? And it's right next to my door. When the parents walk in, they can see this information. that's where you can hold all of the things that the state is going to require you to have. Like, it needs to be visible to the state when they come in, okay? So the first thing I would do is have your fire escape plan. All this is basically your floor plan, and I will go ahead and circle the exits on your floor plan. And then from that floor plan, you're going to create an emergency readiness plan, okay? So what do we do in case of a fire? Like, how are we going to exit? How are the children going to be transported out? I'm going to have examples of all of these things on the screen. Just, you can pause it and just take a look at it and make your own, develop your own style, develop your own sequence of things, okay? Like your own policies based off of this sequence of things. You're also going to have what would you do in case of a medical emergency? What would you do in case of like a food allergy? And with that being said, you're also going to have, like, let's say, I would highly suggest that you wait until you get your first inspection to have children in your care. But if you don't, it's going to be different for you. This is in case that you don't have any children in your care. They're going to also require that you have all of the children. Like, if a child is allergic to something, you're going to have a plan, and that's going to need to be visible, okay? The other thing that you're going to have to do is put your emergency contacts. And on your emergency contact list, I put a list of all the things you need to have. One of those things is going to be the Health and Human Services Department, like a way that they can contact licensing. And the next thing is, once they give you your inspection report, you're going to actually have to post that report along with your permit and a product recall list, okay? So those are the things that you absolutely need. Like I said, you can find all of these things in the minimum standards. I'm just trying to make it easier because sometimes the language that they have these things, like written in these things, it's just simply complicated, honestly. Like, you'll have to sometimes the inspector just likes to give you citations, I feel like, just to show their bosses that they do their job, but you don't want to get any heavyweight citations. Okay, so let's move on. So one thing that you also need to have is enrolled children's folder. Now, I actually had an inspection when I used to do my childcare, and I had kids in my care, and I actually got in trouble for this. Like, I got a citation for it, which I guess you can call it in trouble or not. Here's my little file folder right here. I would suggest that you have something that's readily available. You can just pop the information out. This is going to be your enrolled children file. You're going to have all of this information, okay, inside this file. And when licensing comes in, they're going to want to see this information per child in your care, okay? So if the parent says, like, no, I don't want to get a health statement for my child, well, don't enroll them. The state does, I know Texas does offer one that kind of lets them prolong the process for a year. But if they're not going to sign it, don't get yourself in trouble. Just simply don't enroll them, okay? So you have to have one of those folders for enrolled children. You also have to have one of those folders for yourself. So all of your background screenings, all of your like personal information, everything that you had to do on the portal, like when you signed up for the process, just go ahead and print it out and put it inside of your folder, because the state also can come through and ask for that information on yourself as well. The next thing that you need to have that you didn't have to have before was a written activity plan. Now, I have a little sample right here. And this was just an old daycare actually that I used to work at. You have to have a plan like this. So I will go ahead and find a plan. I'm still working on mine, so I don't have an example for you. When I get it worked out, perhaps I'll show you, but I'm pretty sure you can go on Pinterest, find an example of an activity plan, and make that activity plan match what you have. They're going to ask to see this, okay? The other thing is you're going to have a folder for all your employees. So the same kind of folder you have for yourself and for the children, the employees also need to have one if you do have employees. So their clear background screen, I will get their ID. I will have all that stuff in a folder and ready to go for your licensing inspector to review it if necessary. All right, so the policies part of this is so detailed that I will go ahead and show you what I have. And I will also let you know the things that I got a citation for not having, so that then you can make sure that you have everything. It's easier for me to show you what I have than to tell you only what I don't have, because you might forget some things, okay? So let's go through these things very quickly. So here is my folder that I keep all of my copies in. So when I'm creating all of the parent packets and things like that, this is like my little master folder, okay? I will go ahead and buy some folders. You don't have to buy folders that look just like this. I got these for 98 cents at H-E-B. I think they look really nice. These are going to be the children's files. So all of this information I'm about to show you is going to go permanently in the children's thing inside of my little file folder. Okay, I'm going to put the kid's name on here. I will only give these folders away to parents who have paid and I know that they're going to enroll. Okay, if when you leave your parent interview, you know that the parent's going to enroll, I will go ahead and give them a folder like this. Otherwise, I will give them the little disposable folders, which I'll show you. Otherwise, I would just give them a folder like this, or you can just keep it all like this if you want to. I like all my stuff to be uniform. This is more like, I got these from the Dollar Tree and they come 3, so they're cheaper to just hand them out to parents that you might not enroll, but I would save these, okay? So how I assemble my packets, like I said, is I have everything right here that I need. I have everything that is necessary here. And this helps me really in my parent interviews to be able to go over everything. So I have my fees list, which I won't show you because you need to create your own fees, but I'll talk about them. I have tuition, when tuition is going to be due, and any fees associated with the tuition not being due on time. This time around, I'm actually offering extended child care. So like I said before, sometimes like I would open at 5 o'clock in the morning and close at 6, and some people would keep their kids from 5 to 6. That is totally inappropriate in my opinion, okay? For the same price that I'm charging. If I'm going to have to dedicate my whole day to caring for your kid, there needs to be an extra fee associated with that, in my opinion, because that means you're working extra hours or you're doing absolutely nothing and your child needs to be with you anyway, okay? So extended childcare, I put 8 hours, and after 8 hours, you have to pay $60 for the week total, okay? So $60. So let's say I charge, just for easy math, let's say it's $20 a week for childcare. I better not hear that you're doing that. Let's say it's $20 a week for childcare, and then you want to extended childcare, $80 for the full week for your payment would be your payment. Okay, so use that. You make up your own numbers. I would charge an extra price for extended hours, and still that doesn't mean you get to pick your kid up at 9 o'clock. I still close at 6, but I would charge a rate for extended hours because people will take it as far as you let them take it. And that's a further conversation for I'm going to have a conversation with you about parent interviews, but not in this video. Spot holding, regular tuition is due to hold your child spot. That's the way that I do it. Pick up late, I will add all that in the fees. I also did a pre-interview screening and I have it listed on my website. I would not. It just helps people to, kind of weed themselves out. I will go ahead and put some of your values in there, put your hours, put your prices, just skim through. So that you're not getting all these calls from people that you really don't want to, you don't want to be involved with. It's unnecessary. To have them come to your house and go through all this when you guys aren't a good fit. So having a pre-screening, honey, helped me so much with weeding through interviews, especially once I became full. Once I was full, it was kind of like, putting people on waiting lists and things like that. It's always a moving circle. Like, people are always moving. Things are always happening. Sometimes, parents shift responsibilities. So things are always happening. So it seems like, well, wouldn't you have the same kids and you just wouldn't be accepting any other kids? For me, it wasn't necessarily like that. I always had some, at least one spot available because someone shifted here or got kicked out. And got kicked out. And I was able to just continue to interview. So there's that. I also would have a holiday schedule because for me that is necessary, so that the parents aren't blindsided by any time, especially if you're going to take off a week. I would let them know. I would plan it up front which week you're going to take off, and I would let the parents know, hey, this week is going to be taken off. Before, I did have a policy where I took, let's say I took off 5 days, you would still have to pay. I no longer do that. But if the child is absent for 5 days, they still have to pay a fee or they no longer have a spot. It's really that simple. So this is what I do. It's a parent checklist that I created, just everything that I like to go over in the parent interviews. And this is going to be some things also that you need to keep. You're going to have a record of some of these things, okay? Shot records, most definitely. Admissions info form, statement of health that comes from the doctor. Those things are required by the state. A field trip approval, you have to do it by trip. So if you go on the trip every single day, you have to have a trip approval per trip. But I like to do a whole one and then inform the parents as it goes. Medication form, will you be giving them medication? The state's going to need to know that. If you're only going to be giving over-the-counter medication, you need to know that, and you're going to have a log. One change of clothes, enrollment agreement, photograph permission. You know, in this age of social media, heck, I'm here on YouTube. I wouldn't put the children necessarily here on YouTube, but I would get permission. Access to the classroom app, that is completely up to you if you want to use the classroom app, and allergy form. My first time around, I actually used an app called Brightwheel. They went up on their price. I believe it was like $50 a month, and I refused to pay that. There are different ways. There's Class Dojo. You can use some of the free applications, like Band is an app, and you can just kind of use it like a community tab for your parents. You can give them access into the app. I wouldn't spend $50 a month on an application, even though you can take payments through it. I have a whole payment thing set up. You're just gonna have to take time and really look at this thing as a business. Are you gonna be accepting cash? Are you gonna be accepting credit cards? Will you do both? Will you create invoices? Can you like get a software where you can create invoices and send out invoices? That's my preferred method. That way I have the documentation, and you're not pretending as though you sent me something that you didn't send. The thing, I'm able to send reminders via invoice. You know what I mean? Like, they're automated. And that's very helpful. So an allergy form, I put my child doesn't have allergies, and my child does have allergies. If the child does have allergies, there's a whole separate process. You have to get notes from the doctor and things like that. And then there's 2 checks there. I would talk with the parents. If the child has a severe allergy and you know that you can't accommodate it, do not enroll the child. That's serious, okay? And I take it very serious. Here's my photograph permission form. And you can find all these forms free online. An enrollment agreement. And this enrollment agreement basically just goes through every single thing in my policy. This is me sitting down with the parents with my policy book open and going through every single thing, asking them if they have any questions. Because when I get ready to terminate care because you refuse to follow rules, I went over it in depth. And look, you even put your signature. You put your initials here and you signed the paper. So these are all of the things that I have inside of my policy book. Drop off and pick up. You have to have this for the state. You're going to have to say, like, what is the procedure for picking up and dropping off children? Do people have to show their IDs? What happens when, do they have to be a certain age? You have to have that. I'm just going to read the last line that I have here and we'll kind of give you an idea. Here it is. The child will not be released with anyone not on the approved list. A valid ID is required. So just word it however you want to word it, but make sure that it's in there because they're going to check for it. Sick care. Do you provide sick care? What's your policy when children are sick? How you send them home? How you contacting their parents? It's necessary. Let me see if I can read a little something. So we will provide reasonably sick care for children. If your child has anything that is contagious, I ask that you keep them at home in consideration of the other children. If you have medication that needs to be administered to your child, please let me know. I will have a form for you to fill out that must be returned before I can provide any medication for your child. That line is imperative because the state is going to ask what's your medication policy, and that one will suffice. Of course, I went into more detail and gave just more information just because policies and procedures, I don't think people realize are actually derived from experiences. So for me to just show you my policy book and just give you and let you copy it, you're still going to have to add things because how you experience things is different for me. What gets on my nerves might not get on your nerves and vice versa, okay? This was one that I found to be very necessary. Please inform us of any vaccinations that your child receives in our care. For flu, for example, as it may result in the child missing days due to being sick. I had a child one time, he was like 1 year old, and his dad gave him the flu vaccination and then sent him to daycare. And I'm wondering why the baby is lethargic, and I wish I would have known that he had a vaccination. Like, I would like to know those things, and I would probably make you keep them at home. Drug and drop is grounds for immediate termination. Please refrain from giving your child medication to reduce fevers or mask any illnesses. Like, let me know if your child's sick. Don't send them to me sick and then them get other people sick, including the people inside of my home. Kennedy, don't do that. That's just some examples. So cleanliness and hygiene, that's a policy of mine. Like, you need to come nails clean, clean clothes, all this kind of stuff. I actually had to put it in there. Like I said, experiences create policies. What to bring, and an enrollment fee. The enrollment fee, we're going to talk about this here because so your enrollment fee, mine has changed. Your enrollment fee for me should cover some costs that were expensive for you and that are reoccurring when children come. Like I mentioned, these folders, I have nap cots. I like the little fold up, like the little roll out. I'm gonna get it, hold on. All right, so I'm gonna show you this one. It's my daughter's, she has it unfolded. These I buy for every child, okay? Here is a little pillow, the little blanket, it goes together and it rolls up really nicely. This is expensive. I believe I found one that was like $24, but you don't want to cover that cost for every child. If you have 6 kids and then one kid leaves, even though you can keep them, like, it's all up to you, but I would make your enrollment fee things that cover costs like that. Also, I want the children to have hot cold cups. I'm going to purchase those. It also is going to cover one uniform shirt. Now, I use a uniform shirt because let's say we go on a field trip, I don't have to make like name badges. I'm able to identify them, okay? So these are things, like I said, from experience I created. I would just use your enrollment fee for that. My enrollment fee used to be really cheap. I think it was like $30 for 2 children, but I didn't have a lot of stuff that I wanted to purchase for the kids. I made them bring in their own blankets and stuff like that. I plan on doing it a bit different this time. So your enrollment fee is going to be whatever it is. Sign in and out, like I said, I read the drop off and pickup. That's kind of part of the sign in and out, is how will you make parents sign in and out? What do they have to do? For the state, they actually have to like sign their kid in and out. But are you going to use the app? What are you going to do? That's something that you have to put in your policy. I would definitely put for what reasons would you terminate care? I would have that in there. Let me give you an example of mine. So I put my business name is working very hard to provide a service that you can trust. With that being said, we place a great deal of trust in you as well. 2 weeks notice will be provided for if any reason that me as a provider decides to terminate care. Termination of care is a last resort, but can be used in the following cases. And I put a bunch of examples. One being conduct and behavior problems, consecutive poor hygiene practices. Like, I at one time had to bathe the child every single morning. So things like that. Consecutive lateness with or without late fees. Like, no. Ways reserves the right to terminate care at any time for any reason. So I did put that in there. And then the next thing is talking about discipline. You hitting me and hitting other of any of our friends, any of our classmates, is immediate termination. I don't have to wait 2 weeks. 2 weeks is a courtesy. But if you're going to do things such as that, you're going to have a policy for that. Daily schedule and trips, I mentioned that they actually changed this. You have to have like an activity schedule. So just keep all that stuff here for the parents to see. Discipline, I just told you a little bit about it. Days of vacation, that's what you were asking. You need to have a policy about that. Will they pay? So days off or vacation. Let me see what I have. Close all major holidays. Reminders will be sent out for all days that we're closed. Please also check the parent board for reminders, as we'll list the days that will be closed. So that's all I put for vacation holidays. Just communication. That's all this book is, okay? Taxes. Now, depending on how much you charge, remember I was charging $50, okay, when I first started. And if that's your call, do that. Whatever you want to charge, do it. But I was charging $50, and then I had parents have their, like, let's say you started care in December. In January, turn around and say, hey, where's the tax ID number? And yes, I do have a tax ID number, but you don't get my tax ID number if you've only paid me, $200 at this point. Because you have to, I think the threshold is like $5,000. Well, if you haven't paid $5,000, you're going to be penalized for giving them your tax ID number. I'm not a tax professional. I'm just saying it doesn't make sense to me. I will put a policy about that and definitely speak with the parents about that. Because some people literally, I had a lady contact me while she was in the office saying, what's your tax ID number? And I'm like, baby, you just started last week. You're not getting a number from me? No, ma'am. And then this policy went. I didn't have this policy before she did that, and then I got a policy about it, okay? Late pickup, definitely put this in there. Like, are you going to be tolerating late pickup? I would say be very firm. Of course, you need to weigh every situation. If the parent got into, like, you know, maybe a fender bender or something like that, would you really make them pay a late fee? It's all up to you. But if they're consecutively late and they're coming in, you know, with a bonnet and house slippers because they've been at home all day long, you know, some things are considered. Go over all this stuff. Payments. How will you accept your payments? I know some daycares make you pay Friday for the Monday that's coming up. I like it like you need to pay by Monday. Not by the end of the day Monday. By Monday morning when you're dropping your child off, you need to pay for the week of care. If you want to pay late, I have options because I have a website and I can like offer afterpay and you can do payments and things like that. I used to offer payment arrangements. I used to offer financial assistance. Like if you cannot pay for daycare for a month because some things came up with your bills and you needed a chance to get yourself situated, because of the people that I serve, I understand. Like I'm going to work with you just because I feel like that's the place that God has called me to. If that's not if that's not how you feel, if that's not what it is, then don't do that. You need to have a policy about how you're going to deal with payments because people will try you. Okay. Meals. The state does require this. You need to have your meal times, and they're going to ask you if you're going to be participating in the child food program or anything of the sorts. Just have all that information in your handbook. Nap time. They do not require that children take a nap. I, however, put in my policy handbook that your child will be on the nap mat during nap time. Okay, you will be surprised how many parents get totally like mixed out of proportion by you making their child fall asleep, like making their child take a nap. I wouldn't accept them. I would not enroll them. That's just me, because nap time, I'm not telling you to lay down and take a nap because that's not what we're doing. But nap time is a time that I plan and that I reset. And it's imperative that you're on your mat and not running around. Okay. So I never had a child in the 3 years that I did this before. I never had a child who did not nap. Their parents started off saying, oh, they're not going to take a nap. Oh, they're not going to do this. Oh, they're not going to do that. And they did all of it. So have a policy about that. The state does require that you don't force kids to take a nap, but give them like quiet toys and things of that nature. Girl, I got a lot to say about it, but I refrain. Non-prescription medication form is the next form that I have in here. Like I said, sunscreen, baby wipes. I will get the parents to sign off on all of this. It's crazy that you have to go so in detail with people. Like if you say I can give your child medicine, you would think it means everything, but here I am. I'm gonna have to go in detail, and I will go in as much detail as you can. Here's a transportation form that I have here. Like I said, this is the overall transportation form, but you have to have a transportation form for every single trip. And lastly is my admission form. Now I made this one myself, as you can tell by the top there. But there is specific information that needs to be in the child's admission form. Their name, what would you like, emergency contact, what hospital you want them to go in case of emergency, maybe approved people. I have that line on here, approved people to pick up your child. And you can make your own policy. You can make, like, in order to be on the approved list, have to have that person inside of the interview with you. You can make that a policy of yours. Make sure you put it in your handbook. And make sure you have that on your little form like this. I will tell you that as much stuff as you can do to cover yourself, do that, because people will try you. And you have to remember that you're actually working with people. Yeah, you're working with children, but you're also working with their parents. And I will tell you that one time I had 2 times in the past that the parents were going through like custody battles with their children, and the police actually was sent to my home. That's why I won't do this thing under the radar. That's why I would not suggest that you just watch children unlicensed or I wouldn't suggest that you do it illegally. So if you're allowed to keep a certain amount of kids, like in a certain ratio, doing all that kind of stuff, pay attention to all of that. But I wouldn't just do this because people are so crazy with their children, and you don't want to get stuck in anyone's messy crossfires, petty crossfires, as I mentioned before. The dad was trying to take the kid out of state, and if she would have put him on the release form, technically the police said that I would have had to release the child with him. So just keep all of that here. All of that here. If you even want to be in the interview and say, well, what is the relationship between this child and their father alike. If he does come up here, first of all, why you giving him my address if he crazy? But you know, that's all. Have it all right here. If he has to be sitting in the interview, if you don't let anyone come pick up the child who wasn't in the interview, I wouldn't blame you, because the person in the interview is the person that you're, you know, trying to build a relationship with. If the other people didn't think enough of who was going to be in their child's care to come to the interview, I would strongly consider not allowing them to come and pick up the child, because you don't want to get into anything. Okay. So I think that was all that I had to share with you today. If you have any other questions, feel free to ask them. I'm in a daycare mood right now, right? So welcome to the channel. If you're coming over from my Maker's Marquee channel, welcome in. Take a look around, okay? But as always, if you have a question, ask a question, and I'll see you in the next video.